The average student spends over 15,000 hours in public school. But when they graduate, you find them unprepared for real life. In this video, I'm going to talk about both homeschool and public school and why I think homeschooling is better. And as someone who has been through both homeschooling and public school, I feel like I'm qualified to share my experiences about both sides and tell you why I think homeschooling might be much better for children or teens that are growing up and want to start a career or just make money in general. And if you want to share your opinions, go ahead and share them in the comment section below. Let's get straight into it. And the first reason why I prefer homeschool is because of the purpose behind traditional school. Think about it. In regular public school, you're expected to get good grades, get into a good college, so you can have a good job, have a degree, so you can have a decent standard of living. But when you really dive deep into it, the jobs that people get with these degrees, right? They don't really give them the fulfillment that they've always wanted. And even if it does, it still doesn't give them the financial freedom that they've always wanted or give them the flexibility to manage their own schedule and do whatever they please. Now, some people might prefer that kind of standard of living or that kind of schedule, but for a child that wants to explore their passion, whether it's being a writer, a songwriter, a dancer, a singer, anything that they want to be in their life, an entrepreneur, does this system of public schooling allow that to happen? Since the time I was little, I've always wanted to be a writer. Like, I feel like that was my main passion. Like, I do like other stuff, but I feel like writing something I'm kind of like obsessed about. I like crafting out stories in my mind and putting them on paper, and it would be about various kinds of things. I feel like I go kind of crazy when I don't have paper at my disposal, just to like write something down. I don't know if any of you feel like that in the comment section. And while school does teach language arts and it does go deep into like different writing styles and grammar and spelling and stuff like that, it was really in homeschool where I feel like I really got to go deep into my passion of world building and overall learning how to write a novel for myself. And that's when I realized that I've always wanted to be a storyteller and a writer, and I've had this idea in my head that I was just seeing it as like a little hobby, but I didn't see it as a serious job. But what homeschool did was that it explored the option that, oh, I can actually take this into a career. Now, some might argue, oh, college definitely has that. Once you get through standard schooling, you just have to go to college and you can get a degree in writing. But who says you have to do all that? What if you can start now? You don't have to wait till college to be able to do something like that. And I feel like homeschool allows that flexibility. You don't have to just do things the traditional way. If you want to choose to live your life a different way, homeschool allows that to be a possibility. And so for me, I was given the flexibility to keep writing and writing, refining my passion. I'm also co-authoring with my sister, so we both got the opportunity to just write and write and write and just get better at our craft and get better at creating the characters, creating the story, creating the lore, the plot, and just really going deeper into the story that we really wanted to tell. Something I don't think I would have gotten in public school. So yes, you can learn how to become a writer and be an author through college and stuff like that. But I don't think you necessarily have to go through a whole 12-year process and 4 years of college and go into serious debt just to have the ability to do that, if that makes any sense. So that would be my take on public school. Its purpose feels like it wants you to be a slave to the system. It wants you to be an employee under them so they can make money off of you and use your time rather than you using your time for yourself to do what you want to do. That's the way I see it. And I feel like public school is kind of like a gateway into, okay, you have to be in a job so you can pay the bills, so you can be financially secure, rather than, okay, let's see what the other alternatives are. And the second reason I prefer homeschooling over public school is because homeschooling prepares you for the real world, while public school prepares you for a world that no longer exists. With the rise of ChatGPT and many other AI programs, I'm actually kind of surprised that we're not learning more about AI in school. Like, I know it's a new concept, but clearly this is the future. This is a type of technology that's going to replace many people's lives, and it almost makes homework and many college jobs that you're trying to apply for irrelevant. Even people are using ChatGPT to do assignments, essays, and homework. Chat can write an essay on anything in the span of 1 minute at the very most. Now, I'm not saying history is not important. It's great to know about how we got here because it helps us learn about what we can do better in the future. But to do better in the future, we have to be prepared for it as well. And I feel like school is still stuck in its traditional past. The same system that was trying to develop workers for the Industrial Revolution. It really hasn't evolved past that, but homeschool is adaptive. It can be flexible based off of the beliefs of the parent and what they want to do. If you want to go and teach traditional schooling, you can do that as homeschool. If you want to teach more entrepreneur-based tactics and skills, and you want to teach your child more about business building, then homeschooling can also do that as well. So I feel like homeschooling in general can fit both demographics instead of being rigid to one solid system where you have to do certain things in certain ways. And one thing looking back that I'm grateful that my parents did was that they not only gave us the freedom to dive deeper into the subjects that we wanted to learn about, but they also gave us the space to learn them ourselves in our own way. And I feel like every single child, every single person actually in the world has their own style of learning things in their own way. And with just a bit of structure and a bit of discipline, the child can be free to learn, grow, and develop in what they want to become. And I find this difficult to do in public school alone, just due to the system itself. So that's why I would prefer homeschooling over public school. And my third reason for why I think homeschooling is better than public school is because I think homeschooling can protect the mental and emotional health of students. And I feel like this is a very important part. It's definitely not uncommon to see bullying in public schools, and there's also the stress of work, burnout, and all sorts of things. Now, when it comes to stress and burnout, to an extent, some of that is good in terms of like sharpening the student's tenacity to perform better. But to an extent, if there's too much burnout, like if it completely burns you out and the workload is overwhelming, while it might increase your discipline and tenacity, it's not healthy for the student at the end of the day. And other times, it can be unrealistic and can affect other aspects of that student's life, not just academically. And bullying is shown to reduce the self-esteem of many students. And while counseling and telling an adult always helps, it doesn't really solve the problem that goes around in schools almost every single day. And I feel like with homeschooling, students will still be under a certain amount of stress, but the kind of stress that allows them to build themselves up and causes them to work hard at what they want to do. They will still have to work hard, meet deadlines, and complete certain tasks and goals, right? A parent can set up that system for the child to complete certain tasks and goals, but it's not an overwhelming workload that almost feels unnecessary. Not to mention the stress of testing and studying. They can study at their craft, and again, it's not all work that they're supposed to like in homeschool. There is some work where I have to go in and edit my entire book. When I had to look for editors and sometimes do some of the grammatical edits myself, that is part of the process I hated, if anything. Having to go back and edit and find out certain grammar and spelling issues and inconsistencies in the plot. I hated doing that. All I wanted to do was write a story. It's inevitable that people are going to have to do what they don't want to do in order to get what they want in the end. But it doesn't have to be overwhelmingly aggressive to the point where it burns the student out and it affects their entire work-life balance. And for me, I've been through those kinds of periods in public school. I know it was only middle school. I think that was public school. I didn't go past 8th grade. So I may not know the pressures of like high school itself, but I've heard that it's unnecessarily challenging to juggle all those tasks at once and toward what kind of specific goal. To eventually graduate high school and then move on to what? College? Where you have to do more work to get into a job that you hate. So it's almost like a lose-lose situation, if that makes sense. But with homeschool, that hard work is still there. You still have to do what you don't want to do in order to get better and to stay on top of things. But it's working toward a good purpose that you want to do. And you get to regulate that stress in a healthy way and decide how much is too much for you and how much do you think you can challenge yourself in. So I feel like homeschooling gives you that kind of flexibility to figure out what kind of work works best for you. Homeschooling helps you work in a healthy way. You work hard, smart, and with a healthy mindset. And I feel like that's my third reason for why I think homeschooling is better than public school. Thank you all for watching. I know this was more of an informative, giving my perspective kind of video. So I was just trying to show you like, from what I've seen through my experiences, the advantages of like homeschool, advantages of public school, and like why I would say homeschool's on like a higher pedestal when it comes to that. Of course, education's important. Do what works for you. I just find that like there's so many advantages to homeschool that you can find in it, so long as you use it right and use it to its fullest extent. You can do so much with homeschooling. And I hope I gave you like an insight into as to how you can do that. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.